No, this is a promotion, $10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you a little backstory. I owned a pressure washing company since 2013, and through that, had a few trucks, a few employees. Recently sold that about 3 years ago, and but for the last 5 years, I decided to start selling equipment. I used to teach people, other competitors, and teach them about processes and methods and chemicals they could use. And I was always just saying, yeah, get it from this other person. And it usually led to get it from this company in the States, which is hard to get those products and shipping, and they wouldn't ship to Canada. You take forever to get the stuff. So one day, bright idea, I said, hey, why don't I start selling this stuff? And started off as some soap, and then it grew rapidly into equipment and different soaps and chemicals. And I was able to, talk to people and spread my knowledge and my passion for the industry and teach a lot of people a lot of stuff, and hopefully helping a lot of companies locally grow their company and their knowledge. And ultimately, our slogan too is to set the new standard in Canada, so we don't have, just people driving around with rust buckets and junk vehicles. So I kind of push my customers to step up their game and get the proper equipment, to learn the names of the fittings and the equipment that they use, so we can just, again, up the standard and, master their craft. If they're gonna be, no matter what industry you're in, I think it's important that you know what the name of the thing that you're using is called. And yeah, that was kind of the reason for that, so.
I think prior to the days of BigShot and these companies that we can get products from like this, it was like a wing it method. You used to go and buy some 30-second cleaner, and I used to get a reaction when I would put some bleach or some soap in there. It started smoking, and it would actually do a better job if you added some soap, but it was probably doing some damage to my lungs and God knows what else. So I think, to our theme of the day, the systems, it really brought some organization and a theme and like how to do things. Really, it was partly to do with your company being involved, really.
Yeah.
Because honestly, before there was really like this soft washing kind of systems that you implemented and you've kind of shown everybody. It was everybody just buy a pump and get a bucket and off you go, kind of thing. So it's really changed a lot over the last 5-7 years, kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot. So thanks to you.
Yeah, it was like that for me too. Just driving around, and if you find a store that happened to have a few things, you just go there and buy tons of those things, and the other store you're buying it. So we kind of tried to come in as like a one-stop shop for everything that pressure washers, soft washers, window cleaners, gutter cleaning, roof cleaning companies need, and that's what we've delivered. We have a ton of products, and our goal of the store is just to add new products every day. And we try to bring in high quality products, so we really set the standard of we don't bring in the junk products. We're really bringing in the good stuff that does cost a bit extra. We do have some of the lower quality stuff in case somebody needs that, but included when you come in the store, you're gonna get some of my time, some of my staff's time. We're gonna teach you what the names of the products are and how to use them and how to apply them, and then little cheat codes on how to use them. And really I do a lot of training. So this is a disclaimer, my first real time sitting up in this environment talking like this. It seems pretty comfortable, but usually I'm training and teaching people specifics, so systems or methods on how to jump into niche industries, which is really my passion. How to clean, be that the guy or the guy with the hammer that has that magic hammer that gets the job done and nobody else could do. And hopefully today after this I can teach everybody how to maybe tackle a project that nobody else could get, and you show up and you know exactly how to do it. You can increase your ticket, you can get deemed the professional in that area, and your customer is going to look to you for other things because you were able to do that. Instead of just reaching all the time, I like to zone it in. Not for example, a customer, you meet them and it's oh yeah, we do that too, but it's something you don't know anything about. Oh yeah, we can totally deliver those things for you. We should get into delivery driving now, and you're kind of reaching. I did that first too. I started washing stuff and someone wanted me to stain a deck, and I ended up spending so much time figuring it out. I had to resand the thing, and I noticed I didn't like it. but I like to be able to approach it like I know how to get that stain out or do that thing, and then I can approach them that way. So hopefully I can teach you. The topic today is the art of identifying a stain. Again, notes, I don't have any of this memorized. A lot of it is memorized in my head, so I'll go off the top of my head, but I'll glance here. The art of identifying a stain, and it goes a little bit further than that. It's identifying a stain. I want to teach you how to evaluate that stain to make sure you're not going to ruin, just to try to get this one thing out. We don't want to wreck everything else around it by using a certain product. Learning how to, the ratios that you would use, the process, and all of that. So I like to break everything into 3 groups. So this is for the exterior cleaning. I think it would apply also to interior cleaning and different things. It's pretty broad.
Covers all of the bases when you talk about this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, some of these as I get into it, there's a bunch I know it's very broad and it would fit into all categories. My background was obviously in exterior cleaning, so I break things down into 3 groups. So we're gonna have, out there, we're gonna see organics. So that's gonna be your algae, lichen, moss. Those are the kind of 3 main ones that we have here on the West Coast. They're organics. So whenever we're trying to clean organics, we're always gonna use some type of sodium product. So the most common one, sodium hypochlorite, which is a fancy word for chlorine or bleach. On the streets we call it SH. But yeah, it's gonna be a sodium. So there's a few different ones that are really common. Sodium hydroxide, sodium percarbonate, which is like oxygen bleach. Sodium metaxacillin is one that we use as well. But sodium hypochlorite is your most common sodium that you're going to use. And in fact, sodium hypochlorite covers about 95% of the exterior cleaning that you're going to do. When you start getting outside of sodium hypochlorite, you're moving more into a bit of a niche.
Specialty kind of stuff.
Yes.
Different woods and different surfaces.
Yeah, for sure. So organics, sodium. The next group we have is inorganics. And then that's always going to be cleaned with an acid. So some type of acid, and there's tons out there. So I see it as like categories. Like I see that I have an inorganic stain, I'm gonna use an acid, and then there's different types of acids that we can use. Inorganic stains could be efflorescence, which is common on bricks. You'll see a white powdery substance on a red brick. It's just it's inorganic, but it's a naturally occurring thing that happens with bricks. Rust would be another inorganic thing that you would clean. And rust for most people is very difficult. There's a million stores that sell rust cleaners and they don't work. So you spend a fortune on these rust cleaners, they don't work. We have rust cleaners that remove rust quite easily. They cost an arm and a leg, but people buy it by the 5 gallon because it just works so good. Inorganic also, that's on page 2, but we have, it's typically efflorescence and rust are the big ones. Metal oxides is a big one. So if you have, like, let's say flashing at the top of a building, and then you have maybe a concrete wall, and let's say the sun and the rain, which is usually the biggest culprit of most stains and different things, is the elements. Rain and sun do a lot of damage. So the rain's hitting the flashing over years and years and years, and it starts pulling the deposits of like metal, the oxides in the metal, starts leaching it onto the building. So a word I use a lot is leaching. So something leached onto a surface, and now you want to get that off. That's typically going to be an acid that we're going to use to clean it. And acids are great cleaners, they work awesome. You got to be cautious with them, but they're not like, you know, like the cartoons where you got the big green pit of acid and you touch it, your whole body melts, right? Acids are very common, and maybe you guys already know this, but acids are very common in the cleaning industry. The next group is going to be your grease. So we have typically like a petroleum-based grease, like oil from a vehicle, and then we have like food-based grease. So when it comes to grease, we're going to need to use a degreaser. So we have alkaline degreasers, and then we have caustic degreasers. And caustic degreasers have some of that sodium in them. So sodium hydroxide in the degreaser, which makes a caustic degreaser. Now caustic degreasers work really well for your, again, food-based products. So if you're at a restaurant or a dumpster pad, if you have an oil stain, you can use an alkaline-based one. So again, it's just these 3 groups that I really break it down into. I've thought about it, and like maybe there is more groups, but those are really the 3 main ones that we deal with. So it's kind of step 1 of identifying a stain. So we're gonna show up somewhere, and the customer's gonna say, hey, I got this stain. Our job is to kind of sit back and then try to figure out what might have caused that stain to have happened. So on the outside of a building, if I see the flashing and I see this like stain underneath it, I might, start to think, hey, maybe that pulled that down and that's the root cause of it, and the stain is from the metal. Then I'm gonna go back into my 3 groups and say, well, it's not grease and it's not organic, it's inorganic, I need an acid. So we've already kind of centralized that to, we're gonna need some type of acid. Now that's where it gets kind of tricky, and it's something that we're gonna work on in the future more, is like narrowing it down to this product. Currently, it works well for me because my customers phone me. I love engaging with my customers, and I say, hey, it's one of these. Sometimes I know it's this acid, it's this product, it's this company, let's use this. Sometimes I don't know, so it's maybe 1 or 2 things. You're gonna kind of go to battle with those 2 things and see what works. But again, it's just identifying where the stain is, if it's inorganic, organic, or a grease, and then choosing one of those, and then we can narrow it down to what type of thing we wanna do or to use. We also gotta look at the surface that it's on. So we gotta figure out if the thing I'm going to do to remove this thing is going to also ruin the surface that it's on. So let's say I have some, good example, some algae on a cotton t-shirt, let's say. Like if I go with bleach, I'll get rid of the algae, but I'm gonna ruin the cotton.
Burn a hole right through it.
Yeah, so that's an easy one. Cotton and bleach, they just don't mix, right? So same with the acid. If it's on a certain surface, like on a wood surface, and I go use the acid, I might damage the wood. And I got the stain out, but really we just wrecked something else. So that's why we want to be mindful of that.
Now we have to paint the whole place.
Yeah, so it just opens up another can of worms. But that part of it too, that's one of the trickier parts, to know what things damage the surface around
Having
there.
the knowledge and the wherewithal to understand what's created that,
Mhm.
or what's caused that, for
Yeah.
sure. That's one of the bigger parts of the task, right?
Yep, and again, that's where I leave a little bit of room for some material that will come out in the future talking about it. It's difficult to know what product's gonna hurt what surface, but that's where we have that open phone line. You give us a call, we're gonna kind of look into it, investigate, do some research. You can use the internet too to say, like, does this type of acid ruin this surface? And I don't mix those two. It's pretty accurate when I search. But a lot of the bottles of the thing you're using, they're gonna say, don't use it on this thing, right? So, and then we have literature that's gonna show us. So again, we identify the stain, we look at the base, the surface, we figure out the product we wanna use. And then I believe the next step now is that we want to figure out the ratio of the thing that we're gonna use. So this is where we can get into bleach, your most common thing. So bleach, when we buy bleach, we're buying the industry standard, as some of you may know, is 12%. So in my mind, it's probably telling me that the 12% of that thing is like pure bleach, and then the other percentage, it's all like water. So that's how you get 12%. So it starts off as a 12%, it's yellow in the jug. Now, if I were to cut that, let's say I had a jug this big, I dumped half of it out, and then I filled it up with water, that 12% has now become a 6% mix.
Or 50-50.
Or 50-50, yes, but if we're talking percentages, 6%. So there's certain percentage numbers that you can memorize and learn and write down that work on certain things. If you go too low, it just won't clean that area. Now, if you go too strong, it will clean it, but it might do damage to that area, and you're also wasting product. So with bleach, it's really nice to get to the exact number, which is very achievable through different means. We have blend manifolds that can adjust your ratio. We have injectors and X-jets, all these different tools that we can talk about another time. But we want to use the proper percentage to clean a specific area. And the example I have is, if we have an asphalt roof that we want to clean, we know here on the West Coast, typically a 6% 6% is what you want to clean, or what you want to use. So we water our bleach down 50-50, and now we have a 6%, and we can put it onto that roof to clean that roof. Why? Because we know that the surface can handle the 6% bleach, and we know that there's enough algae and moss on there that 6% is what we need in order to get it to come clean. Vinyl siding, we know that a 1.5% mix is, if we go 1.2, you might not clean it. If we go 1.6, we're wasting chemical. So 1.5 is the number. We put a 1.5% mixture onto the surface, and it will come clean. And if for anyone who hasn't seen bleach clean siding, it is just like that. It is every single time I do it, I'm still like, it's like the first time I found it. I'm like, holy cow. I'm spraying it 3 stories in the air on this completely dirty building, and it just goes away within 5-10 minutes. Which kind of leads me to the application. So we're figuring out what product we want to use. We're putting it onto the surface, and you can group this for all of them. Typically, we want to figure out the percentage and then apply it and let it sit for 10 minutes. It's just a good rule of thumb. Bleach works really quick. Sometimes 5 minutes is fine, but we want to put it onto the surface and let it sit for 10 minutes.
Not in the blazing sun.
Yes. So if it's, and again, it's weather dependent. So if it's overcast and cool, it's one of the best days to do exterior cleaning because things aren't drying up on you right away. Now, if it's really hot outside, you might want to adjust your schedule, is what I like to do. So maybe we'll go do that roof wash first thing in the morning, or we'll show up and we'll do the shady side first, and then the other one gets sunny, and then we do that side. So you kind of adjust your timing based on, again, the sun. The sun, can screw things up for cleaning stuff, but again, it's also the thing that's causing a lot of the problems. Oxidization on houses, your car gets faded if it sits in the sun. This is the thing that's ruining houses, is the sun and the rain and the moisture in the air is what's causing the growth. So yeah, so if it's super sunny out, you might have to apply and then apply a little bit more to keep the area kind of wet. Overcast days, great. Super rainy days, difficult because it's adjusting your ratio. It's now diluting your mixture, so it's not going to get the work done. Now we want to let it sit for 10 minutes, and then we want to be able to clean that surface. And kind of the theme too is soft washing. And with soft washing, it's known for like spraying bleach. So when people say soft washing, it's spraying bleach. And I tried to break that a while ago. I believe soft washing is more using a chemical to help you clean something and then using the least amount of pressure possible to get results. That's my definition of soft washing.
Not hard.
Yeah. So whether it's rust or efflorescence, grease and oil, I'm going to use the least amount of pressure possible because it's going to wear that surface down less. Right? It got dirty, we got to clean it, but if it's getting dirty every day and I'm constantly applying 4,000 PSI to it, it's going to wear out that surface and it's going to age it faster. So our customers love it that they have a new house, it's 2 years old, it's getting algae, we can come in there and clean it without stripping anything off. And it's not even just visually stripping, like, oh, I can see it stripped, it's not even visual, it's just you're cleaning it all the time and you're wearing it down and aging it. So different surfaces, again, they can handle different pressures. So if I were to apply a chemical to a concrete wall, I don't have to try to soft wash it with 500 PSI because I know that wall can handle 4,000 PSI because it's a concrete wall. If I were to spray that same detergent onto someone's fence, a wooden fence, if I were to just say, okay, well I used 4,000 PSI on this concrete wall, I can just hit it with 4,000 PSI, you'll start to do damage to that wooden fence because I know that 2,000 PSI is about the number that you want to use. Now, you can use, this is important, you can use 2,000 PSI on that fence simply because you have already applied the proper product to that surface and let it dwell, and now it will come clean with 2,000 PSI. But if you didn't apply that product, which most guys are out there, or a lot of people are still just going out there with pressure, everything's pressure and water. When you apply that product, let it dwell, you figured out what product you want to use, you can get much better results by using less pressure because you've put the proper product on there in the first place.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference. Like when I started, soft washing or building cleaning, 20 years ago, it was like all elbow grease. We, you know, get a foam can, spray a little bit of soap on it, you know, get a brush and holes and scrub it all around. A lot of energy, a lot of, you know, elbow grease. And so it's drastically changed how we do things. And just these little systems of how to, you know, do that have changed the game and allowed us to, we can do a lot more in the same amount of time with the same energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, better results, quicker, easier. And that's what one of the things I talk about when I talk about why I enjoyed this industry is like, if it was still just show up, fire up a pressure washer, put a green tip on there and just beat the crap out of everything, it'd get pretty boring. You'd figure out instantly how it works. Like learning the chemistry of how things work and applying it to different areas. Like I use the chemistry, like the tactics I use here, I use it at home when I'm cleaning a stain or this or that. And so that makes it interesting of a profession because there's a lot to learn versus just going out there and hitting everything with water. And then the systems and efficiency and all these things make it interesting. So there's lots to learn. Now, in between I might have to look here, between the spraying and letting it, I'm gonna look here actually real quick, because I had a point in between just spraying something on there. Might not be able to find out where it is. Maybe I'll get back to it. Maybe you want to fill in there?
So I think that with all of this, is I think that what we're taking from this is you can kind of like put this towards, you know, the floor care, janitorial, all of these different, you know, services that we offer. This information kind of like sits with all of you, identifying things, understanding things, using the right chemicals, and just having a process in which you can follow. So, you know, where this really applies most, you know, in the exterior division, where I started off, it was really just like testing the waters and figuring out what and how to do things. And so as that's progressed over the years and we have certain systems and different chemicals we can attribute specifically to these things, it's made things a lot easier. And in that, I think that, you know, having a way for everybody to understand this and having the resource, like having call-in, like for all the people who are in, you know, Preston knows best, you know, if you need something, you can just call there. You know, like I'm one resource in that respect, but when it really comes down to, you know, figuring out how to approach something, you know, the industry leader is probably the best person to ask. So I can say that, you know, if you've got any questions in terms of, you know, how to clean something, you know, Colin's probably the best person to turn to. So,
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found my note there. So one of the first steps I kind of skipped over is before you apply the product. A lot of people miss this step. Let's say they got an oil stain. It's on a driveway that's been covered in algae for a couple of years, and they spray the degreaser onto the oil stain. So I'm always saying, like, clean the area first. So that's the first step. So get everything nice and clean so that when you apply the oil removal product to the oil stain, that we're dealing just with the oil stain instead of putting it on top of other stuff. There could be, you know, the algae, there could be efflorescence there and all these things, and the oils can't work as well. So kind of, I'll summarize at the end, the kind of steps is, you know, identifying all this and then get to the root of the problem, and then let's put it on, then let's let it dwell, and then let's clean it with the least amount of pressure as possible. And sometimes that is 4,000 PSI if the surface can handle it. So now when it comes to any vertical surfaces, it's a bit different than your flat surfaces. We want to add a surfactant to our mixture. So that's a soap, and that's going to help that product dwell longer, stick longer on the wall. So if I have an oil stain on the side of a building, if I were just to spray degreaser onto it, that degreaser can just roll down quickly and it doesn't have time to latch onto the oil stain and clean it. So we sell all kinds of surfactants, and they're especially important when you're working with vertical surfaces. The longer you need it to dwell, if it's a really bad stain, we might use more soap or a thicker soap. So we have roof washing soap that's quite thick, and then we have like house washing soap that's quite thin. so that we can rinse it quicker. The reason it's thicker for roofs is because roofs are generally covered in like 20 years of growth, and they got trees and leaves sitting on there and decomposing, so the algae, moss, and lichen is quite thick. So we want to use a stronger mix and thicker soap so it sits and dwells on there longer and actually absorbs into the shingles. The soaps that we sell are all going to be stable with chlorine, with acids, and with like alkalines.
I think you can, if you take a bottle of like sunlight soap, it says right on the back, do not mix with bleach. And so that's kind of what we did for a really long time.
Yeah. So
before all these systems were in place and all these, all these chemicals were available, we kind of just did. The point of using the soap was so it would stick to the building. It would create like a foam. But obviously now we're fast forward and we're using things that are appropriate for this, right? So.
Yeah, and on our website too, for all the soaps, we're gonna have like ratios of, it's already listed there, exact ratios, how much soap you should use based on what you're doing. If you're downstreaming or direct application, whatever it is, it tells you how much soap to use. And my site is pretty honest. I was washing for a lot of years, so I wanted to save money and I wasn't trying to use too much soap. So my ratios are really fair, that you could buy a 5 gallon or 2 5-gallons and it can last you a long time, the whole year sometimes. So yeah, there's the ratios there, and we just want to make sure the cheaper the sunlight soaps, a lot of people still use them. They say do not mix with bleach on them specifically because they will neutralize the bleach over time. So they're stable with them, but in the sense of it will start to make the bleach weaker over a period of time. And then also they tend to leave residue on windows. So our soaps are designed to rinse well and not leave a white kind of streak on the windows. So some guys say, hey, well, we're cleaning the windows anyways, but it's still more work to clean a window with that's more dirty, right? And it's got soap stuck in it. It can be a pain to get it off. So surfactants are definitely good, and the biggest takeaway is if you're doing a vertical surface to add that to your mix. And when I teach people about the dwell time, the simple little kind of story I would say is that if I have a bucket of water and I pour it on somebody, they're gonna dry relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. But if I were to put a bunch of soap in that water and dump it on someone, they're gonna feel wet longer. So it's going to keep that water on them. So that's one of the main points of soap. So next thing here is, what do we got? Efflorescence. So a story with using acid, and like when you're cleaning something and you're using an acid, it's a little bit different than cleaning with like bleach. You're getting instant results, and a degreaser is kind of the opposite. You're almost not going to get perfect results. You're kind of just trying to get the oil off the surface, and there's always going to be a shadow kind of underneath most of the time anyways. Mm-hmm. So with an acid, you're going to for example, with efflorescence, you're going to spray it all over an area, and with this cleaner specifically, it's going to bubble up.
This is typically like a muriatic acid.
Yeah. Muriatic acid would be like the raw formula, more dangerous, and then there's other ones they've come out that are safer and yes, much more stabilized. But it's going to the surface is going to if it's a vertical surface, which it usually is, I'm going to add some surfactant. I'm going to spray it on. And with acids, usually the ratio is like straight acid. Mm-hmm. You're not going to inject it and water it down. You can use straight, or you're going to go 50-50. Those are the two things. When it comes to ratios, I'm going to start weak and then go stronger after. So with acids, you start 50-50, and if it doesn't work, you go straight. With bleach, you kind of have those predetermined numbers, and then with degreasers, you have some crazy ratios: 40-1, 60-1, 20-1.
Because of how sudsy it is.
Yeah, and how well it works at going after it. You can go 10-1, like 4-1, 4 parts water to 1 part degreaser would be a very strong mix. It's not very often you're putting straight.
Gas station kind of ground.
Yes, yeah. You can go straight; it just bubbles up like crazy.
Yeah.
So with acid, it's usually just a straight acid or 50-50, and with rust and efflorescence, which is what you're going to see the most. Speaking about efflorescence, you're going to spray it on, you're going to see a bubble, like a white, it's like dropping a Mentos kind of thing into a Coke bottle. it's gonna fizz. And you keep spraying it until it stops fizzing, and then again, it's on concrete. I can apply 4,000 PSI to it. I'm gonna rinse, let it dwell, and then I'm gonna spray it on there again and look for anything that's bubbling. Once it's stopped bubbling and nothing is, it's usually means it's gone. This can take 6, 7, 8, 9 applications, right?
Yeah,
Over
we
and
find
over.
effervescence to be one of the more painful things to deal with.
Yeah.
And then not understanding completely and fully how to use the products and stuff like that, so it's helpful
Yes.
where you've come in, and
Yeah.
you know, there's been many situations where we don't know what to do, but they want this, and it's like, you know, you're the resource for that. So I
Yeah.
think that, you know, soot is another one as well.
Yeah.
That recently we've been dealing with, and we haven't known how to deal with it up until recently.
Yeah.
And
Did you get one of the products that I recommended?
Yeah,
Yeah. Hot stain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just works really, really good. You guys had good results.
Yeah,
right?
so I, to anybody who's ever cleaned a building and can't get the soot out on the building, it's ultimately,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. We don't have much, you know, progress with that kind of thing. We always tend to leave a big stain around thing, but they now have products out there that can deal with that. So I think it's really boils down to like the right chemistry, the right product, the right knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, and having a kind of a system behind
We
it.
used to always say, well, it's permanent.
Yeah, yeah, but no, and that's what we've told people in the past, and like,
I'm talking 10 years
you know, the funny thing is, we recently had a complex, they had just cleaned the building, and the company had come in and cleaned the building. You know, they had big giant stains around all these fireplaces, and they said, oh, that's the way it's gonna be, just what it is, you're gonna have to paint or whatever, and, you know, the results that, you know, just getting some knowledge and information and getting the right product, and we were able to change the results drastically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
And that's when I do
powerful
my
stuff.
when I do my training. I'm teaching the companies that come in to do training. I'm teaching them these specifics because currently all those things are still kind of niche. Like in the future, they'll all be just like common knowledge that, you know, soot stains, you can use this product, efflorescence, you can use this, rust, you can use this. But right now, these are really where I teach people to make a lot of money, extra and upsell, is because the general cleaning is just getting rid of the dirt and grime and organics. And then after that, everything else becomes niche, and you can typically charge more for those niche
Yeah,
things. that are
totally, and they
difficult
were
to
willing
get
to pay more for
off.
that,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, and then for us to come in afterwards and, oh my goodness, $250 for each one of these areas, or whatever the cost was. It was very, if you had been the company that came in there and identified that in the beginning, cleaned the whole building, and also cleaned that, then it would have made a way bigger, you know, impression of all these people. So.
Yeah, so there's a lot of benefits to that. They group you into being the professional, and then they give you different types of work. When it comes to rust, and any kind of stain like that, what I like to do is, after I clean it, I follow the system, I clean it, I like to actually just pull up my phone and take a picture of it, because you can actually like zoom in on it and take a picture. Even once it's dry, take the picture and then kind of go at different angles and look at it. Especially when it comes to rust and efflorescence, it's really tricky. So with rust removal, it's very expensive to do. The products are really expensive. There's a lot of steps to do it. And you have to, a lot of times you're cleaning it and you're waiting for it to come full circle and dry before you can evaluate it. And then, you know, you have to do another application. Yeah, I was doing some work for the city of Burnaby. They have rust stains at all their hockey arenas, and these were pretty decent sized areas. They tried 3 or 4 companies, nobody could get it done. Those people referred them to me. I went out there, you know, threw a great big price at them and was able to get it tackled in a very short period of time. But I was actually charging them for my time that I was gonna sit there, prep it, spray it, wait for it to dry. We had leaf blowers out to kind of speed it up, but it was kind of overcast, so it was taking forever to dry, and then we'd have to apply some more. But that's where I learned to step back and go at different angles and take a picture and zoom in and take another picture and just really look at the picture and see if that stain was actually gone before I wrapped up and washed it and left, right? Because it would just come back. So that's just a little tip for that. Yeah, so some questions they get asked by people, they'll phone in and they'll do the like, will this ruin this? And that's kind of the basis of questions. Again, I kind of touched on it earlier. You can search, do some pre-checks first. ChatGPT is helpful for some of these chemical things, and I'm inserting a lot of literature in there too.
It's
I think.
amazing what AI can do for us.
Yeah. So.
And Rachel, like you guys are using the word efflorescence a lot. I'm not 100% sure if everybody knows what that actually
Okay.
is. Like,
Yeah, so a lot, like half the room over here is like floor care, but the other half is like,
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people
exterior.
are familiar with the term, but like, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a
Explain
calcium
it.
buildup or staining left behind from
So that white
concrete.
stain,
It's like a,
concrete,
like calcium saturation and buildup.
It's like calcium stalactite.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's kind of, it's like, you know, even in like the floor care, even in, you know, flooring or tiling, sometimes you get similar stuff, right? So,
Tile is very common.
yeah. So I think for, in terms of like the exterior division, you know, this would be a good opportunity for you guys to ask questions, or, you know, if you got anything you wanna ask Colin over here? No? Got no
We see
takers?
calcium staining quite a bit on windows, window cleaning.
Yeah, so calcium staining on windows, and so that really comes back to an acid,
Yeah.
right? And that word to people, and you know, the idea of working with acids is a bit of a scarier thing, because you know you know, burn yourself or your body, or you're exposing yourself to things. But you know, and really at the end of the day, there's a process for using these products and ultimately getting the staining off the windows.
Right,
So.
and then, and as well using it in a rope access situation too.
Yeah,
with
you're stuck
sensitive
in this
gear
situation
that
with this
you
stuff
don't
and-
wanna wreck.
Yeah.
Expensive stuff.
Yeah, window frame, like the aluminum window frames, they can get wrecked with the acid, so it's really procedural, and like you gotta be organized in order to do these kinds of things. I know that we kind of steer away from doing acid window cleaning. We've done a bunch. I do remember, we left one of the applicators, the squeegee applicators, in a bucket of acid overnight, and we came back and the cloth was still there, but the metal applicator inside was gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do a lot of damage with that kind of stuff, so.
So with most of those applications, it's either an acid or abrasion. So abrasion works too. So
Like with glass.
Oh. Did it?
There we go.
Right there?
with with acids on glass, and with acids, I guess even on using an acid even on rock walls, you can use abrasion too. So on the glass, that's another option too. Instead of
Polishing,
using depending on the glass, what type of glass it is, but you can use a scratch pad, and that's really, you've probably seen some of our Reach It brand rocker window brushes, right? They
Yeah.
have inserts inside. They'll have steel wool or bronze wool inside the brush, and you just
So you
peel
can
it off.
scrub,
Yeah, it's a Velcro. You can peel it off. You can switch to a different abrasive. They've got 10 different abrasives you can put in there, and you can clean the window. Water's coming out, and it's cleaning whatever you have, whether it's hard water stains. And even on windows, it's typically not calcium. It's kind of a mixture of different minerals that's from the impurities in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We call it calcium staining over the years.
Yeah,
a lot of
we
the
do
time
it
it's
even
like
kinda like,
concrete
is it
buildings,
actually
the
calcium?
building
No.
itself is concrete, and
Yeah.
they don't, they won't seal the building, so it'll shed,
Yeah.
right? Or it'll leach to exactly what you were saying before, where, every time it rains, it's just shedding down the building. You can actually see on some windows, I remember this vividly, you can see like where the way the water runs down the window.
Yeah.
And it will always trickle down the window in that same little spot, because it's built up calcium, and it's just following kind of like a path. At that point,
irrigation systems are famous for it. The lower windows will have all the staining from the
Yeah.
irrigation just spraying on the window all the time.
Or around ponds, we've recently done some of that, like remediation work around that kind of stuff with acid, and so yeah, I think that in terms of, when it comes to stains, whether it be carpets or everything, it's really identifying and creating a system around that, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe in closing for me, like I would say just to kind of recap from the beginning, like you see a stain, you want to investigate where did this thing come from. Sometimes that takes 2 seconds. If it's a new one, it's a little bit of looking what happened here, what happened there to cause the stain, and you're going to kind of put it into a group. Is it this, organics? Is it a grease, or is it inorganic? And then from there, you're going to figure out what product you're going to use. You're going to kind of figure out the ratios, and again, just to simplify that, bleach, we're typically going in percentages. The more water we add, the weaker percentage. With acids, it's either 50-50 or straight, and degreasers, we got 40-1, 10-1, 20-1.
Depends on the product.
Yeah, so we're gonna use the proper thing. We're gonna clean the area first so that we're just dealing with the stain. We're gonna apply the ratio, the chemical, let it dwell for 10 minutes, and then we're going to whether it's pressure wash or, whatever method that we're using to clean, and that's kind of it. We're gonna evaluate. If it didn't work, if it kind of worked, maybe go a bit stronger. We just keep going stronger until you get the thing out. And if it's not working, maybe we're using the wrong product, and then maybe if this is a stain, we're gonna use A or B. Maybe we're done with A, now we're gonna try B. Sometimes, the same area, tire marks. We have 3 products for tire marks, and tire marks, sometimes this one works, sometimes that one does, sometimes that
You
one.
have something that takes tire marks out?
Yeah, they're very, very easy to come off, but actually, and again, it's acid, so,
Interesting.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
learn something every day.
Yeah, most commonly what we see on buildings, especially it's combination of things. Like they have moss or mildew and let's say this environmental oily film from the traffic.
Yeah,
in
the
downtown and area.
traffic grease, like your footprint on the building, how it just
Yeah,
stays
it's
there.
just like
Yeah.
it kinda, you can feel it, it's an oily,
Yeah.
like kinda blackish.
Looks like
dark
carbon,
surface.
kind of.
Yeah,
Carbon
some
things.
windows, you can wash them all day.
So
and
it's like
still
how
be
you
on.
deal with those things like step by step, like determine to like, okay, we want to remove the moss or the moss first, then you have to deal with the oily surface at this different time period, or it can be combined like in one step? Or-
Yeah, you can combine SH, a surfactant and a degreaser together.
Yeah.
All in one.
Yeah.
Right, and then you only have like one rinse and one application. So there is ways to do that. But everything is a little bit more difficult when you're stuck on a road, on a high rise. So in saying that, it might be a little bit more difficult to do those kinds of things. As you've seen, we've attempted the soft washing on high rise buildings, and it wasn't very fun. So.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah, I've never done it myself, but I've heard.
You see these drones, they don't work, and then you sit on the building and you're getting yourself covered in the stuff, and
Yeah.
all day long, it's a little bit different than saying, oh, that doesn't work. And
Yeah.
kinda
But I think for my answer for that question, I'm everything. Even when you said I'm visualizing like the lower section of a building, I'm on the ground because I haven't done.
You don't get up on the high rise.
I don't do
yeah.
the rope access stuff, but
Yeah.
is that specific? Do you guys do
Oh, yeah.
groundwork too?
We do
but-
everything.
Yeah.
We do everything.
So
And
if you're on-
these guys, this whole table here is rope guys, but
Okay.
and so he's asking questions regarding obviously what he's doing every day, but we have tons of guys that do stuff on the ground.
Yeah.
And all over the place. So.
And I think there's a hybrid. I think what Rachel said too. So like with bleach, we know that you can add degreaser to it. So if I'm cleaning a house or a building that's close to a freeway or a train, I'm going to add a little bit of degreaser to the bleach mixture. So I have my surfactant, some degreaser, and then the bleach is the main cleaner. I know that the degreaser will neutralize that bleach, but it happens not in minutes but days.
Yeah.
So I don't mind it and put it on there and do its thing. So that will help with the carbon. And if I have like a greasy kind of touch it, it's kind of like filmy and greasy, but it's covered in algae, I would go back to the process I was saying before. I would clean it for all the organics first, and then deal with that after. So I've kind of isolated the stain, and then for that I'm going to say, okay, is this oil grease or is it like food? I'm going to investigate. Is it food grease? It's kind of clammy and sticky. Maybe I'm going to use a caustic degreaser, and then I'm going to say, like, can I put caustic degreaser on this surface? Well, if it's concrete, painted concrete, you can pretty much put anything on there. So it's like, yeah, just lay it out on there, let it dwell for 10 minutes, and then give it a rinse using the amount of pressure I can for that surface. If I start using 4,000 PSI to clean it and it's just coming off like easy, maybe I'll drop my pressure to 3,000 and start cleaning with 3,000 because it's working. So, the last note I had on there is because we were going to talk about pressure is just adjusting your pressure. You don't have to turn your unloader. You don't have to turn the pressure washer down. In fact, both those things are terrible for the machine. What you want to do is adjust your tip. So it's the only thing you really need to do. I could have a 24 horsepower engine that puts out 8 gallons a minute, 4,000 PSI. If I put a massive tip on the end, the pressure is going to decrease.
Mhm.
So that's why you guys probably have the J rods and stuff, and you're up, maybe on rope access, you can change the pressure just like that. So that's really important because if I start cleaning off that wall that I put the degreaser on, and it's it's coming out good, maybe it's starting to, I can see it almost wanting to chip the paint, I can just switch the tip and I can drop it 1,000 PSI. And if it's still working, great. If it's not, maybe I got a tip in between, it brings it up 500 PSI. And then you can finish the area using the right amount of pressure.
I think as a company, we have to do a bit of a better job of educating everybody around all of these different things with the tips and everything, but
Well, Greg,
this
I was
goes back
talking-
to
we're gonna
systems.
talk about your meeting a little bit here.
Yeah.
So,
Wait,
Oh,
two more
we got
questions,
more
then wrap it up
questions?
for dinner
Yeah.
lunch.
Doug,
What about the temperature of the mixture? Does it make difference if you use hot water, cold
Oh, yeah.
water to do your greasing?
For the actual mixing of it, yeah, a lot of the dry chemicals that we have, I suggest to people to have, like, I'll go to like Value Village and buy a kettle, and I'll
Like the
have a kettle in the
bicarbonate, you
vehicle.
gotta
Yeah,
mix it with
yeah, you
hot.
dump the hot water in, mix it, and then you can fill it with cold water. But so it doesn't, the application doesn't change if it's hot or cold, but like to make the powder mix up better.
and
it's
in
nice
terms
to use
of
more
cleaning,
water.
it's all sort of like situational based, like obviously you're gonna do a better job on a greasy ground, like a parquet floor with hot water,
Mhm.
right, than you are with cold water, just because of the temperature and the way grease responds.
Okay, last question here.
Last question.
Okay, some of the commercial windows, they have lots of window with a plastic frame,
Mhm.
Oh,
and the stain come from that plastic frame, and it's so hard to like remove this residue.
yeah,
And also some of the frame, like aluminum frame, is sunlight, damage the paint.
yeah.
And once you apply some, solution on top of this, it's gonna remove the paint. So what solution you have for these kind of?
You can restore the frames because they're anodized, and we do have a really good product that restores frames.
Yeah,
That's
that's
one.
niche too,
it's
that's
very-
like, not your typical, we're gonna go in and clean the windows, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like a restoration or a little bit beyond.
Yeah, it's very tricky. I
analysis.
struggle with that too. Usually, I'm letting the customer know ahead of time. There's this damage, and when I clean this thing, it's pulling it all back down. It keeps pulling it. What do you want me to do here? Like, do you want a quote for restoring it all, or are you going to be just okay with where it's at? So
Yeah.
it's tricky when there's pre-existing damage. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Colin, that was very informative.
Kevin.
What do you wanna do?
Oh, just take a picture of that.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Alright.
They calling us for the thing?
Want to pause it?
Oh, wow.
Okay, give him an umbrella.
Oh, yeah.